at this year's International Women's Day. And shared with us her story, which we thought was a great story. And so today is the opportunity to just share that with more of you. And so thank you for joining us today, Mandy. As I said earlier, Mandy Biddell is Assembly Planning Team Lead at Spirax Sarco. Over to you, Mandy.
Thanks, Angela. So as Angela said, good morning all. My name is Mandy Biddell. I'm a team leader at Spirax Sarco Cheltenham. And I've been asked to talk to you today on a subject that affects all women at some stage in their life, which in turn affects everyone around them. The menopause is a hot topic, so I will chat to you about my experience so far and what I use as a coping strategy, and what we're doing at Spirax Sarco to support others in this journey. So, my story. We ran into the pandemic. While people were reconsidering their life or trying to keep financially stable, I was looking for my next career move. Something made me go rogue. After being an engineer in all my life, I decided I might give a sales company a go. So I secured a job working for a well-known manufacturer of hydraulic components. This was completely out of character and was questioned by my friends and family, and rightly so, as this did not turn out to be a good move. So I returned to what I know best, and I secured a job at a subcontract engineering company as operations manager. All was looking very exciting, and I was positive for the future. Being the only female in the senior management team, I knew it was going to be tough, but it turned out to be off the scale. So 2021, I noticed that my memory was not so good, and I was struggling to sleep. Then one morning I awoke around 4 o'clock with heart palpitations. I literally thought I was having a heart attack. 2 hours later, I hadn't dropped dead on the floor, so I thought I'd hop off to work and see if it happened again. Anyway, it did many times. So I rang the doctors and I was referred to the hospital for a heart monitor. This was inconclusive, so I was told it was probably just my age. My memory started to become an issue. I would hold a production meeting every day with key stakeholders in the business. I started to forget words and even people's names. My boss would call me out in the meeting. What is wrong with you? Are you stupid? This approach is not how to win friends and influence people. Anyway, this became a theme. I thought you were clever, he would say. I don't think you're up to the job. I was used to operating at a high standard, a high achiever with a brilliant memory. Well, not anymore, it appeared. I rang the doctor again and asked, is this the menopause? Well, probably, she said. How about trying some HRT? So what would you like? Patches, gel, or coil? Well, I literally had no idea. I'll try a patch, I said, thinking they are easy if they're anything like my dad's pain patches. So I got a prescription and off I went on my patch journey. After doing some research, it seemed to be a good choice. Things were not getting any better at work, to the point where I would sit in the car every morning, cry, then give myself a motivational talk, and then push on with the day. I'd always loved work and only ever moved on for career development, but I couldn't put myself through this. It was having an effect on people I worked with and became very toxic, not to mention the effect on people close to me. I needed to take action. It was time to move to a company who would support me as much as I wanted to support them, and in 2022, I found Spirax Sarco. I started to settle into my role and things were good again. Fast forward 3 months later, my patches itched to the point where it was unbearable. I assumed the patches I just collected from the chemist may have had different glue, but I wasn't sure. I rang the doctors, and after several calls and my legs looking like a patchwork rash blanket, it was decided that I'd become histamine intolerant, whatever that was. So I was given estrogen gel and progesterone tablets. So, Mandy's tip of the day. If you suffer from migraines, this is not a good combination, as I quickly found out. After several weeks on this combination, I started to get serious migraines. Then I couldn't hold my balance. Then I couldn't talk properly. My partner thought I was having a stroke, and I thought I was having a stroke. Several calls to the doctor, and I'm back on my patches. I take antihistamines and use a steroid spray before I apply my patch. I have good days and bad days, but I have an amazing team and network of people around me. I tell them how I feel on a daily basis and try and help them understand that I'm not a nutty old lady. Well, I am a bit, but not because of menopause. Menopause can sometimes be treated like a dirty word. So I had a tattoo the other week and they used to be taboo, but now they're cool. Why are we embarrassed about the menopause? It's a change in our body. We celebrate when we are pregnant and that messes with our hormones. And menopause is just another stage of our life. We should look at it as a positive. We don't have to spend an extortionate amount of money on sanitary products anymore. So, what is my coping strategy? So, communication. You don't know what you don't know. We communicate daily in our working lives. So why can't we do this in our home life? Why do we expect people we care about to just know how we feel? We need to tell them. Get 2 wardrobes. The big thing for me was not fitting into my clothes some days, but then they were fine other days. Bloating is mad and it makes you feel rubbish. I use this as an opportunity to buy more lovely clothes in a bigger size. So I reached for thin wardrobe first, then loose fitting wardrobe as a backup. But it doesn't matter because I love them. Oh yes, and support pants are amazing. So look at the menopause as a project, as you would in your day job. Think of all the things you talk about on a daily basis. How do I feel today? So what shall I wear today? Who am I going to spend time with who will support me? What am I going to do for me today? Remove negative people from your space. I know we all have to deal with them, but don't give them your headspace. I know it's easy to say, but the only person who can make this change is you. Because I had not children, I was naive to think I could sail on through the menopause without it affecting me, and I was so wrong. But when I walk out of the house in the morning, in my slippers, with my support pants on back to front and mascara on one eye, I smile because I know that when I get to work, I will be accepted and supported for being me, no matter how mad or broken. So, moving on from that thought, what do we here at Spirax doing to support menopause in the workplace? So our medical insurance has covered menopause since February 2023. We have a women's career and personal development network where we had a group menopause learning session called The Case for Being Menopause Savvy. It was hosted by an external trainer, Lauren Curran, of Women of a Certain Age. We repeated that menopause session as part of Development Everyday Festival last year, where colleagues from around the world could learn more. We then also ran it as a menopause managers session online this year too. All this helps to open up conversations and supports anyone who experiences menopause themselves or who can help a team member at work or a partner at home. We created a menopause-friendly workplace principles and positive menstrual health at work toolkit. And this was as part of our group inclusion commitments. This will be shared after the session for anyone who would like to use it. So, how did we create this toolkit? So we wrote a draft and we shared it with a group of volunteers from our Global Network support team to see what they thought. We updated the toolkit based on feedback, and then we shared it with an external menopause expert, Lauren Curran of Women of a Certain Age. We then shared it back with our Women's Network volunteers for feedback. We produced a final version and made it one of our 10 group inclusion commitments. We then supplemented the toolkit with awareness sessions and webinars open to all colleagues globally. We included it as part of our Women's Network activity and will be uploading to our new education platform in the coming weeks. So general reaction when we started talking about the menopause with our female colleagues was, we don't talk about this at work. Luckily, this was rapidly followed by, thank goodness we're talking about this at work. We have seen much more open sharing of menopause experiences. It has also helped broaden discussions to start to cover wider menstrual health matters too, including a menstrual health survey and endometriosis awareness in Women's Network site, to name but a few. With our male leaders and colleagues, the reaction has also been very positive, partly in terms of wanting to understand how to support women in their teams, and significantly to help them to improve the quality of their relationship at home, which then has a positive impact on the people at work too. We are also recommending a book, Men, Let's Talk Menopause, to a lot of our male colleagues as well. Our next move is to create a menopause cafe where colleagues can get information and support or just chat. There are also a few apps about. So one that was recommended to be my doctor is the Balance app. It's full of useful information, users' experiences, and is very relatable. So I hope you find this very useful today, and please keep talking. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to talking to you later. Thank you. Angela, you're on mute.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. That's really great to share your story, and it's so important to hear from people because you know, I always say, we say at C2S, you know, you can only be what you can see. And I think to see brave people and women, you know, prepared to share their story and to speak out, it just gives other women the confidence to also say, maybe I'm struggling with this, and maybe I don't feel myself. Maybe it's something I should check out, as opposed to you know, shut up and put up, which is what it's been for so many years. And we have heard some real life examples of where women actually have left their careers because they thought they just weren't good enough anymore. They thought they'd lost it. They weren't as good as they used to be. So they left their jobs. And actually, quite simply, it was the menopause, as you explained, you know, some of the symptoms that you were going through. And had they known that, they probably could have asked for help and carried on with their careers. So sharing stories is just really helpful to all of us. So thank you very much. And there'll be lots of opportunities to ask Mandy some direct questions. And we do have the document that she says, she just mentioned, which we will be dropping into the LinkedIn group afterwards. So please do have a look at that. So now it's time to move on to Sarah. So thank you for joining us today. As I said, Sarah Taylor is the People and Culture Director at Staffline. And we're delighted to welcome you today, Sarah. So over to you.
Thank you very much, and good morning to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and really pleased to be here representing both Staffline and, of course, Amiga, who you're familiar with this morning. What I thought I would do is go through three things, really. A bit about me, as Mandy did, and then we'll talk about what we've been doing at Staffline for to be able to support women and men through raising awareness around menopause. But first, a little bit about me. So I'm Sarah Taylor. I'm 46 years old. I actually live in Nottingham. I live in West Bridgford, and was married for 12 years, but currently going through a divorce. So that's a bit about me. My family are extremely important. They're very much a focal part of my life, and we are very close in the Nottingham area. But at the age of 46, as I'm sure others may be similar, I am very much starting on my menopause journey, which I'll come to in a moment. From a career perspective, I have worked in HR for, it scares me, since kind of the year 2000. I've had the pleasure of working in quite a number of different industries. I finished at Loughborough University and started work at BAE Systems and worked there for 6 years, getting my HR grounding. I then, after being out and about, moving in different locations, moved back home to Nottingham and worked for Boots for 8 years in a number of HR roles, but I also did an area manager role for Boots as well. Then I moved to Carlsberg as a head of HR and worked there for 3.5 years, and then finally joined Staffline in July 2018. And I think what I would say that the majority of the organisations that I've worked in, other than probably Boots, however, I did work in logistics, have been very, very male dominated. And actually, as often the token female in the HR role amongst a load of men, either in a brewery or in logistics or actually now in recruitment, I found it extremely important to ensure that I am able to represent the women in our organisation and ensure that I have a voice and that my voice is heard. Now, that often comes with a need to be extremely self-aware, also a need to be quite resilient and try and find different ways in which you want people to listen. But I would say that having successfully built a credible career and ensured that I am a good listener, but also really passionate about building relationships, that's helped me to ensure that the people voice is heard across the senior leadership table. I think from my personal journey around the menopause, so as I said, I'm 46, and I would say that 2 years ago, I started to experience symptoms of anxiety, poor sleep, a change in my body temperature, and couldn't quite work out what that really was, whether it was the after effects of COVID or was it actually something more. And I'm very fortunate to have a very close, good network of friends where we range from our mid-30s to our early 60s. And we were able to really talk about our experiences of going through this change that every single woman will feel. And what I noticed was I guess, a feeling that women are prepared to suffer. So a lot of my friends were like, well, I don't feel bad enough yet. I'm only having a few poor nights sleep, or I'm actually, my temperature's a bit off, or I'm only really anxious or quite moody a week before my period. So things aren't bad enough yet for me to be able to go to a doctor. And I found that really quite sad and thought, what is it about women that makes us think that we should suffer before we actually go out and seek help? And I was actually very determined to not do that, because I was starting to feel that as I was getting more symptoms, that actually my performance at work was being affected, like you said, Mandy. My tolerance levels were completely changing, to the point where I could feel myself getting angry and intolerant in meetings, and felt that it might start to affect my performance at work. And I wasn't sleeping. So I did two things. The first thing I did was speak to my boss. He is a man. But as a lot of men around my age, they happen to have wives and partners who are a similar age and starting to go through similar experiences. So I spoke to my line manager about how I was feeling and that I was going to go to the doctors to get support. And I did go to the doctors, and I was very, very forthright about what I wanted and what I thought I was experiencing. And again, similar to you, Mandy, it was patches, estrogen, progesterone, who knows? And I tried the estrogen and progesterone for a while. And actually for 3 months, it really helped. But again, what I noticed 4 to 6 months in, I was starting to get more anxiety again, poor sleep, and actually my periods were becoming more irregular. So I've now had to go for an ultrasound, and I'm waiting on those results to work out what happens next. So I'm currently no HRT and trying to work on supplements. And I think the biggest thing, and I agree with you, Mandy, is that all of this we're experiencing it all differently. And unless we talk to one another, we'll never know. So I would also encourage all of you to continue to talk. And I guess that essence of awareness and talking has led me to really think about what we could do at Staffline. So at Staffline, we will do 4 mega campaigns a year around the subject of diversity and inclusion. So this year alone, we've done the cost of living. We've just finished a parenthood campaign. We are doing mental health next. And last year, we had a whole week that was focused on menopause and raising awareness around menopause. Now, the way in which we approach our campaigns is we like to get an outside-in view. We also like to encourage our own people to share their experiences so that people can truly relate to the individuals that they connect with on a daily basis. And then we also aim to encourage conversation and drive policy change. So across the week that we held, we brought in an organisation called Repause, where they ran a session with experts to demystify everything to do with the menopause, which was a doctor and also a woman experiencing that. So we started with raising awareness and really trying to break down some of the barriers and unknowns around what the menopause is. On the second day, and I tend to get my experience and my inspiration from television shows that are going on in the UK. So if anyone's done a bit of daytime television and seen Loose Women, that was my inspiration for the Tuesday session, which was a Staffline women start. I asked 5 or 6 different women to take part in our Staffline women conversation panel, and there were women from different levels within the organisation and going through different experiences in the menopause. And I facilitated a Staffline women panel show where every single female talked about their different experiences, whether that was on HRT, alternative therapy, whether actually, you know, this conflict around, is it depression, is it really menopause? And we really opened up a dialogue, and I would say there was at least 300 women who were on that call. But obviously it isn't just about women. And on the Wednesday, we had a putting the men into menopause session where men from across the business came together to discuss, you know, the impacts of either their partners going through the menopause, their colleagues, and actually what they were experiencing and how they could support them. And that, again, was really, really well attended. And then at the end of the week, we had a Repause Menopause Cafe where we encouraged every single team to come together to really talk about what they've done, what they've heard, what they've learned, and how they can support one another. And the impact of that is that now I have more conversations with men about people in their team going through symptoms and how they can get support. And we have brought the whole subject to life as part of the conversation. So that was the week, but then actually we need to ensure that we are able to actually change our policies and the way in which we do things. So what we have done is backed everything up with a full menopause policy that is open to everyone, where we are raising awareness and changing the way in which we do business as a result of the menopause and what we should do to support women and men going through it. We also have resources on our learner experience platform and ensure that actually it isn't just a one-off campaign, that we're continuing to talk about this in our daily lives together. So it certainly helps that I'm going through it myself, and it certainly helps that the role I'm in is able to have such a big influence across our organisation. But actually what I've noticed by doing this is people do want to talk. They do want to share their stories. They don't want it to be a taboo subject. And excuse me for being blunt, but I've never, ever heard 2 words being talked about so much, which is vaginal dryness, in the space of 1 week. So we really, really did get the conversation flowing. So please keep talking. Please be aware. And I think as organisations, we have a responsibility to make sure that any subject isn't off the table. So thank you for listening.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much for sharing that with us, Sarah. That's absolutely great. And both of you, because, you know, it's as we say, at the end of the day, you know, raising awareness on this conversation and talking about it more and more is just going to help more and more people to feel that they can talk about it, and to feel that, and men as well. I mean, the feedback we've had from some men that have joined some of these groups is that they had no idea. I mean, some have actually gone back to their partners and said, "Oh my God, I had no idea." And some men have said, you know, they've had really testy times in their relationship, but they've not understood why. So the more we talk about it and the more we can share our stories, I think the more that we will inspire people to have those conversations and to be open. And like you say, I think it really is a true thing about women is we do put ourselves last, and we go, oh, we just put up with it, oh, it'll be fine, we just struggle, and we're not ones to sort of put ourselves forward. But I think that actually we need to reflect ourselves and think about doing that, because only if we're feeling good can we be our best selves anyway. So talking is good. Okay, so if I could just ask you to put yourselves on mute and put your hand up if you'd like to say anything. And I'm just going to go around and ask the different rooms if somebody would like to share. Otherwise, I'll have to pick on something. So if we could start maybe with room one. So who was in room one? Have they got anything to share with all of us? So who was in room one?
Well, we room one, Mandy.
Yeah.
And Michaela and
Yeah.
Haley.
So do you want to do anything you'd like to share?
Oh, well, shall I go ahead?
Yeah.
Yeah,
go, Susie.
Thank you. Great to have a decent amount of time. So thank you for that. So we all had a chance to converse and chat, obviously about experiences with the menopause. And one of mine, which the ladies found interesting, was when the nurse had reviewed my menopause. She said, and my HRT, do not let anybody take you off it, she said, because it keeps you young. It has benefits. Should you get breast cancer, it's a much more containable form of breast cancer. So that was interesting to me. And I'm at 65 now. I've been on it for, gosh, must be a couple of decades. And if it suits you, it suits you. It doesn't suit everybody, but now that we've got all these different ways, so it was a really good conversation, and lovely to meet the women in it. So thank you all. Thank you.
Has anybody else got anything to add to that from room one? No? Okay.
I was just going to just say what I found was quite interesting was that we had everybody in the room was at different stages throughout the process, which I thought was actually quite nice to hear. So thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, the thing is, there's no hard and fast rules for everybody. So I think to just listen to different people makes you understand that there are lots of different symptoms out there. It's not exactly the same for everybody. Thank you.
We also felt, all of us, that it was really important to include men. So thank you, Michael Newnham, for being here. I can't, are there any other gentlemen? Norm, Reese, thank you very much for being here. I think that's just brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. And, you know, we really do want more men to come along to our International Women's Day. Every year we get a couple more, but we really want a lot more because, again, organisations that are very male dominated, they really do need to understand a little bit more about how we could all work together better. Okay, great. Room number two. Who was in room two? So
I was in it, Monica.
Monica, you go. Cool.
Yeah, okay. We had a rarity in our group. We had Norm, a man, which was brilliant because I think all of us pretty much were on that HRT journey of different stage or menopause journey. Sorry, obviously not everyone goes on HRT, but he had his experiences of trying to bring things up in the workplace. So he had a few ideas about how actually can bring men into the conversation, and my takeaway from that was actually it's around being an inclusive employer. It was around promoting general workplace well-being, and giving men opportunities to kind of educate and understand. And I'm possibly putting words in his mouth, so feel free to join in, Norm. But men do need to be on board, because as Angela's just said, and he also said, and we all recognise that generally men are the decision makers in a lot of businesses, but they're not going to directly experience what menopause looks like, and it is different for everyone. Not everyone has the classic hot flushes. We all go through different stages. Anxiety, depression, things like that might come up first. So yeah, that was quite good to have his perspective of how they've dealt with it and what they're thinking of going forward, and how actually as a whole group we can promote this is happening to 50% of the workforce.
I think that's a really, really good point, is, I mean, and I think we all agree, we want to take men along on the journey with us, and some insights from men, how we could do that better, where they don't sort of feel overwhelmed, intimidated, or don't understand. Typically, as human beings, what we don't understand, we shy away from. So, any top tips from any chaps on how we could maybe encourage more men to get involved, that would be great. Thank you. Thanks, Monica. Room 3. Who was in room 3? I've got somebody from
I think that was our group, I believe.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So similar to Monica, we were discussing around, the difference of what people or effects that they were having. Again, different stages within the group of, where people were at with their kind of journey as such. Again, we had a couple of people in the care industry that may had, a more female-led kind of industry, and some concerning points of people that were actually had female line managers that may have gone through it themselves, but actually weren't really that responsive to people's needs. And also, from my perspective, obviously, it was, again, as Sarah's already kind of highlighted, from the Staffline perspective, Amiga, again, is very male orientated, and there's still that shamefulness around, even we talk about periods and things like that, of, that kind of journey of, as a woman, of, that being, oh, is it that time? Is it that time of the month? And we have to shy away from them and things like that. So again, that kind of conversation obviously developed of, where we were at with those sorts of points.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I know, again, Spirax have been really good on some of their strategies, also things like miscarriage.
Yeah.
That's a real lost thing. These are all things that women do go through in their lives that men don't go through. And it's just helping people understand that a bit. And again, having the confidence to have those conversations around all aspects, whether you're a young woman, a teenager going through that sort of first phase of hormones, whether you're trying to get pregnant, and that's very difficult, maybe having infertility treatment, and that's very difficult, and then obviously we get the menopause at the end of all of that. Yay!
Lucky for us.
But at least it's all of us, and you don't feel isolated with that, then, do you?
Yeah, and we found the group really supportive, so thank you very much for that time.
No, fantastic. Room 4. Who was in room 4?
I was. So I've said I would give a little summary. I think probably 2 or 3 things. I think the biggest thing was actually there is still a hell of a lot for women need to be able to do in terms of having a conversation. And actually, we even talked about the fact that we aren't that great at talking about contraception or periods or hormones in general. And actually, why is that? What is that about? And we talked about the fact that even for us, if you've got a colleague that might be going through a difficult time, who might or might not be performing, we don't necessarily think about where they are at their time of life and whether it's a menopause issue or actually a capability issue. So I think there's still a lot for women to be able to have to bring to the fore in terms of raising the conversation, not just about menopause and it's also contraception, it's everything. And then I think the second thing is that it just felt like a lot of our organisations are at the start of this journey. So in terms of raising awareness and how we can get other how we can get organisations to support the conversation. But the biggest thing that we can all do is talk to each other about everything more.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to launch a poll because we're just around that 11 o'clock, but we've still, if you can stay on and we can finish the rooms, but we're really interested to know what you think about today, because that just helps us to be better as well. So if you found it, useful, if you found it good use of your time, that's just really important to us to make sure that we're delivering great events to you. So if you can stay on for a bit longer, we would love to hear from you. If you have to dip off, please do tap into and request to join our LinkedIn group, because we'll be sharing all the information. And then people from today, I'm sure, will all hop in there, and you can carry on these conversations. And that can be your support network, where, you can maybe ask each other different questions and look for support, which is what I think we've just seen now, which is brilliant. So room number 6. So who was in room number 6?
We missed number 5.
Oh, did I? Sorry, I got distracted with my call there. Sorry, right, go on. It's probably me with brain fog. Go on, number 5.
Sorry, yes, it's stuck. Oh, it's our room. So, yeah, I thought similar sort of themes coming out of our room. Some key ones: small businesses. How do small businesses deal with the menopause? Because it is very, particularly in male-dominated, which many small businesses have senior leadership team which are men. So how do we ensure that, for bigger companies, it's easier to put those structure in places, but for small businesses, it's harder. And how do you get that network in there to support that? I think leading on that, mainly senior leadership are men, is that for those of us women that are in business and are leaders, there's not many of us. And I think, you end up pushing yourself much harder, I think, as a woman all throughout your life you do. But I think particularly when it gets to this time, we're very tough on ourselves. We're too tough on ourselves, really. And it just provides more pressure. And then the symptoms you get, for example, if you've got to do a presentation, you naturally get hot anyway. And of course, if you're also having a hot flush at the same time, it becomes much harder. But I think it's also there is still that residual of being an older woman in business. There's not many of us. There is quite a bit of prejudice still out there. So how do we deal with that? Following on from that, we did talk about coping strategies. So we talked about things like, actually, you can't really rely on your brain to remember stuff anymore. So how do you make everything electronic? What's the best way to do that? So I think coping strategy is really important thing to talk about. And then I suppose another thing was about medication. HRT is good if you get the right one, but it's just, you have to do a bit of research really before you approach your doctor, and I think that's a bit of a shame. And also, knowing when. So for me, I started off estrogen and progesterone tablets, but then after a couple of years that stops working. You should move on to continuous at that point, or maybe you should, but it was me that did the research. It wasn't my doctor coming back to me and saying, I think this might be time to change. And I think there's a lot of work to be done still on that side of it. I think some doctors' surgeries are turning towards having somebody who is a HRT specialist within sort of surgeries, but we sort of need to push for more of that, really, because otherwise you can't necessarily do all the research yourself to work out. So so quite a few things came out of that, but really useful, interesting discussion.
And I think that's just another point, isn't it? Is one, we need to be brave, one, we need to speak out, but what gives us the confidence to do that is having groups like this, where we can ask each other, we can, have a sanity check, you can have that support. And I think from a C2S point of view, over the last few years, we have seen so many more women in senior management positions and moving forward. And that's just fantastic, because we're nurturing and good networkers and sharers. So that just making the workplace better and better for all those younger people coming through, and for men as well. So who was in, have I done room 6 now? I'm on 7. I've forgotten. I get chatted and I get distracted.
We're in room 6.
6. Who's 6 then? So what did we get from 6?
Just apologising now, I've got 2 puppies in the background, so if you hear weird noises, it's not me. So we discussed the importance of conversation, but I also highlighted I've joined this group as a cancer survivor. So a lot of people that have gone through a hormone-driven cancer can go into a medically induced menopause, and that can happen any age after you've had your period. So actually the conversation and awareness, I think, needs to happen a lot younger, and especially the understanding, because people in those positions can't take HRT. There isn't a patch or anything, or a pill or what have you, but just the need for understanding, the need for flexible working if you've had a bad night's sleep, because menopause does stop you sleeping. You know, what's the benefit sitting and struggling all day, or having your manager turn around and give you some flexible working for that day, or a duvet day? I think just that understanding of actually what's better for you and what's better for the business. You could pay someone to sit twiddling their thumbs and not knowing what to do, or actually you could take a proactive approach and give them some self-care time, some time off, just go for a walk, get some fresh air, anything, and then hopefully they'll be back firing on all cylinders, or at least a bit better than they were before. But mainly just about raising awareness that it isn't just something that happens later in life, it can happen at any point, and just opening up the conversation.
And I think that, you know, that is, again, a really, really valuable point, because some people go through menopause early anyway. Some people, as you just mentioned, you know, through illness or whatever. And these are the things that we don't really think about. And as we've all said earlier, you know, when people in your team aren't really coping, there could have been lots of reasons to do that, for that to be happening. And then 7 now. Who's in room 7? Yay! Hello, sweetie. Yes.
First of all, it was great to have Michael and Reese from a male perspective on our group. So it's great to be highlighted. And Michael was quite honest about his wife's experience, that probably she didn't have it as traumatic as others. So it was great for him to understand a little bit more. There was a few things we discussed. One was around controlling your work environment, or if you're going out for a day, of like understanding if you're having a hot flash or a moment, like, where's the toilets, what am I wearing? And, you know, one of the ladies said she goes bright red with a hot flush, so she's embarrassed. So she's saying to people that she's embarrassed and not explaining that it's actually a hot flush, and that she just needs to take 5 minutes. So it's that embarrassment of knowing your environment on the day that, you know, you're out and about. So that was one thing. Also, I do some volunteering with Sunflower Suicides, and actually menopausal women are one of the highest suicide rates. So it's understanding that we should be talking, and it, you know, because it does affect everybody's mental health, and, you know, people find that they lose themselves, etc. So I'm actually organising an event around that topic in the next few months. So it was really important for us to talk to each other, because we're all going very similar things, but all have a different journey, and we should be supporting each other. And also the worry of getting the right sort of treatment. Reese brought it up, because where he used to work, it was all about the medication, etc. And if we don't do all our research ourselves as well, we're relying on doctors, and it can change, doesn't it? You know, when you get an antibiotic, sometimes you have to go and get a different one because you react differently. So it's kind of that, just understanding what is available to us.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And there's a lot more out there around research, books, conversations. I mean, Davina McCall was great at just opening up these conversations and just making it okay to talk about it. So thank you for that, and thank you for everybody for sharing. Just a couple of things from us. A few people have had to go, but as one of our C2S initiatives going forward, we are going to be raising the profile of women in business and highlighting great women in organisations. So if you have any in your business, please do send us their name, their details, an image, and some about 250 words about them. And we're going to start to be building those leading into International Women's Day, because as I said earlier, you can only be what you can see. So to raise the profile of women in business to all people is fantastic. And as we're all aging and an aging population, there are going to be more and more mature women in business. So, you know, we've started the ball rolling. So we hope that you will carry on the conversation, that you will join the LinkedIn group. It is closed. It is for you all there to share, to support each other, to reach out. Anything you come across, any books, any ideas, anything. You've now met each other online. We'll do a LinkedIn post as well so that you get tagged in. But if you join that LinkedIn group, it is a safe place for you all to just reach out, and chaps too, ask any questions. I'm sure there's somebody in our group that will be able to come back to you. And if not, we'll find somebody to come back and help you as well. So enough from me, and just thank you so much to Sarah for joining us today, and also Mandy for joining us today, being two of our brave champions that are, sharing your story and putting yourself out there. So please have a look at what's coming up with C2S. We hope to see you again, and we certainly hope to see you on International Women's Day. That's on the 8th of March next year. Get that in your diary. We always have a cracking event, and also at the next National Women's Leadership Network. But if you've got a question, if you've got a topic, you've got a subject, you've got an idea for any of this, please do reach out to us, because we're always happy to hear what you think, because these sessions are all about you and supporting you. So a huge thank you from us. Have a fantastic rest of the week, and hopefully you might see some of you at Cheese Club. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.